I have a question for you. When was the last time on this journey you told yourself, it is never going to happen for me? Was it last month, last week, or maybe it was earlier this morning? It is so hard to switch out of that mindset of this will never work and into that mindset of I know that I am on the right path. But how do you do that? And why is it so important that you do when you're trying to conceive? Today, I want to share with you 6 mindset shifts that are going to completely change the way you look at your fertility journey. Welcome to your journey to fertility. This is the podcast that blends science with spirit to give you all the tools you need as you navigate your fertility journey. I'm your host, Jennifer Edmonds, and for the last 15 years, I've been helping women on their journeys to motherhood and beyond. I believe that combining the latest scientific research along with the best energetic and mindset practices will help you to avoid putting your life on hold and bring you closer to your baby. Each week, you'll learn ways to support your fertility and trust your body so that you can stop stressing that you'll never have your baby and finally walk your path to motherhood. This is the Your Journey to Fertility podcast. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I am so excited to have you with me. And if you're watching this on video, you will probably notice that we are no longer in my little home office. I did something scary and decided to move the podcast into a professional studio because we were just getting to the point where things were, needing to change. And I tried really hard to take my own advice here and shift my mindset. And when I was putting this episode together today, doing something big that feels scary is hard. And we are faced with scary choices and decisions to make all the time when we are struggling through our fertility journeys. And there were so many moments where I was struggling, where I was faced with this, do I start treatments? Do I get a second opinion? Do I need to take a break? And all of it is overwhelming and scary. So I would love for you to take this episode and maybe take a few notes. So one of those episodes, I find that journaling a little bit as you go is going to be really helpful. So if you are driving or you're out on a walk, perhaps save it and come back to this episode a little bit later. Because changing your mindset and being able to reframe what is happening in front of you, it made all of the difference for me when I was struggling to conceive. And I see how much of a difference it has within my own students as well. So I have 6 specific mindset ideas or shifts that I want you to make. And some of them may resonate a little bit more for you than others. So like I said, I invite you to write them down and perhaps journal around what comes up for you when we present these and when you consider them yourself. So shift 1, instead of saying rest is unproductive, we're going to shift that into rest is a strategy. This is something we talk about a lot on this podcast, as I'm sure you know if you are a regular listener. But women, especially, I find, are trained to be productive. We earn our worth by what we can do. And that comes from a lot of our schooling. And we are taught, if we work hard, we achieve, we get what we want. If we don't get what we want, we didn't work hard enough. We need to go back. We need to try it again, try harder. And this doesn't work, as we well know, when it comes to struggling through infertility. Rest is not something that you should have to earn. And here is why. Because getting what you want on this journey doesn't come from doing everything perfectly. It doesn't come from doing everything better than the next person or from completely exhausting yourself from doing 100,000 things. It comes from alignment. You're going to get what you want when you are able to come into that place of alignment. I love this analogy. Someone mentioned this to me and I thought this just sums up the struggle of infertility so well. So, imagine like you're driving your car, you're driving down at the speed limit, like nothing's worrying you. There's not a lot of traffic around, all is good. And then in the rearview mirror, you see someone like screaming up behind you. They're going like 10 times over the speed limit. They're weaving in and out of traffic. They're honking the horn. Like you can just feel the stress like emanating from their car. And you're just like, okay, mate, like off you go around me. You watch them like screaming up ahead of you. And then lo and behold, a couple of minutes later, you both pull up to the same red light. You both got there at the exact same moment. But you're just sat in your car being like, cool, everything's fine. This person next to you is losing their mind. I found that summed up for me my approach to getting pregnant perfectly. I was 100 miles an hour. What more can I do? Let's do it better. Let's do it more regularly. What else can I add? I was chronically dysregulated. I never gave myself a chance to rest and just to take things in and let things be. And I think when I got to that place of, do you know what? I am going to cruise downstream. I'm going to allow this energy of flow and alignment to sit more into my journey and what I want. That's when I got somewhere. That's when things started to change. That's when I got pregnant. So you can push, you can go 1,000 miles an hour, and that does work occasionally, but it then doesn't set you up for a particularly calm or relaxed pregnancy. It doesn't set you up for new parenthood. And then what are you going to do with all of that stress and tension and trauma that was built up along your journey as you went? So being able to say to yourself, rest is not something that I need to earn. I don't need to work out for an hour today in order to have some rest time. I don't need to be answering emails at 9:30 at night before I go to sleep. Rest is your time because it feels good. And there is no reason to rest other than that. So rest is not unproductive. Rest is a strategy for helping you get what you want. So shift number 2, instead of if I slow down, I'm going to fall behind, we're going to shift that into if I slow down, I make better decisions. I love this so much. And we can look at this from a very scientific perspective. When we are in chronic dysregulation, when our bodies go into fight or flight mode, the part of your brain that is responsible for critical thinking and analyzing is the prefrontal cortex. It literally goes offline. It switches off. We can see this on brain scans. And that sort of more ancient primal part of the brain and the amygdala switches on, and it goes into survival mode, and it's constantly looking for threats and survival safety signals throughout your day. So when you are chronically dysregulated, you can't make good decisions because that part of your brain that is needed isn't functioning the way that it needs to be. We are energy conservation beings. If you look at lions or any other mammal in the wild, they are not going 100% 24 hours a day. Sure, they might run after their prey, they might have to defend from a predator, but once that threat is over, they're good. They are, I don't know what animals do in the wild, relaxing. They're sleeping, they're eating, they're licking their young, whatever else they do. They are not go, go, go when they don't need to be. But for some reason, humans, we've decided that we are different. But our poor nervous systems have not caught up with the daily stresses that are in our lives. And they certainly haven't caught up with the myriad of stresses that come with infertility. We are not built for constant speed. Burnout has become such a buzzword. I'm sure every second person is sort of using this interchangeably within conversations these days because we are so chronically burnt out. And the journey of everything you go through when you are struggling with infertility contributes to that. Taking a break from fertility treatments was one of the hardest things I ever did. And I was in my late 30s. So you've got, every second specialist and doctor and expert on social media telling you that time is of the essence. I'm getting too old. My eggs are too old. You have to get pregnant now or your chances are going to be X amount less the following month. Taking a forced break was the best thing I ever did, but I didn't choose to take it. I was forced to take a break because of COVID. I was happy to keep going through fertility treatments. I was like, all right, well, this transfer didn't work. Let's go. What's the next thing? What other treatments can we consider? What can we add to the protocol? I had all of that taken away from me because I didn't have the option anymore. And I get it. The idea of taking a break is a horrible thing to consider. You think, I've already waited so long. I don't have any more time to waste here, blah, blah, blah. All these things that we tell ourselves. But sometimes it is the one thing that your body has been waiting for. And it absolutely was for me. Peace should not be a reward. It should be your foundation. of everything that you are going through in your life. So when you are regulated, when you are able to understand that slowing down allows me to take a step back, allows me to stop and consider all of the options and really tune in with my own body and my intuition and ask myself what I need. That is where you make progress. And that is where things that maybe you don't even expect to be an answer will come up. So moving into shift number 3, we are going to switch from saying no impacts my relationships into I am not responsible for other people's reactions. And I think this is important and comes up a lot when we're talking about how to navigate our friendships and our own personal relationships while we're struggling through infertility. And that's one of the biggest things I struggle with and I see over and over again is this, well, I don't know when this journey is going to end. And it has been so long now that my friends don't even ask me how things are going anymore because they know it's bad news and they don't know how to relate to that. And they don't know what to ask me. And it's just this misery cycle. And then we think, well, they're just going to start avoiding me or I'm going to avoid social interactions because I have nothing to contribute to the conversations anymore. I don't have children. I don't know when I'm going to have children. I'm sure as I start, you can hear in my voice, I'm getting dysregulated just thinking about it. I'm sure you relate to a lot of this. And we want to protect our friendships so much. That is a really interesting thing that I think everyone has innately. We are hardwired to want community. That is a part of what makes us human. And initially when we were the very early humans, it was a part of our survival, being a part of community. But on this journey, you need to start saying no. I'm sure you've heard of Mel Robbins, the incredible speaker, and she has this wonderful book called The Let Them Theory. And I'm sure you've heard of it or perhaps you've even read it, but here is the gist. You can't control other people's reactions. You have to let them react the way that they're going to react. And they're not going to like it. You're not going to like it. You're going to say no to that 1-year-old's birthday party or to that baby shower, or maybe it's just a dinner out on a Saturday night, or you don't want to plan that weekend away in 6 months' time because you don't know if you're going to be going through IVF and you have to be home. They're not going to like it, but that's okay. You can't control how they're going to react. There are ways to maintain relationships without having to be available all the time. And I really find that such a cliche, but true friends, really, they're going to be there even through your darkest times. And maybe you won't be as close for a certain number of years. Maybe that relationship is going to change for years to come, but you have to let it. You can't force the issue. And just sitting in this state of, I don't want to disappoint people. I don't want to say no again. I don't want to be that person that's always rejecting invitations because then they're going to stop asking me. But you have to sometimes, you really have to be able to put yourself first. Adding on to this, there was this one part of lockdown that I really loved, and that was I didn't have to make these decisions anymore. They were taken away from me. I couldn't say yes to having dinner with people on a Saturday night because we weren't allowed to go out and socialize. So I think about that, and it was such a difficult time in so many ways, but that forced stop point really allowed me that space to just look after myself and to worry about myself and have to worry about so many others at the same time. And no, we don't want COVID to come back. We don't want another pandemic. Thank you very much. But can you tap into that energy now? Take that off your worry list. Take other people's emotions and reactions off your worry list. If you didn't have to worry about saying no, how would you show up today? How would you approach that relationship? In what other ways would you connect with them? So please take away this idea of you are responsible for how people are going to react. Shift number 4, we're going to move from I don't want to get my hopes up to how can I dream bigger? I get it. If you think I don't want to get my hopes up, I'm going to assume the worst is going to happen. It's going to be less painful when things don't work out. That is how I approached my journey for a lot of years. This doesn't work, and I'm going to explain why. The best way I think to understand this concept of, if I don't think that the things are going to work out, then I'm not going to be as sad when it doesn't happen. I think we can use this to explain how that doesn't work through the placebo effect. And I've talked about this before on the podcast. So if you've heard me speak about this before, bear with me. But if you are new, the placebo effect is what happens. Initially, the term placebo effect was built from when drug companies release a new drug to the market. They separate these clinical trial participants into 3 groups. The first group gets the drug. The second group doesn't get the drug. And then there's this third group that thinks they're getting the drug, but they're actually getting a placebo. And what studies show time and time again, literally the world over, in all different populations, ages, genders, health conditions, is that those who think they are taking the drug get better. Sometimes even better than the ones that actually took the medication. Not always, but that is what the research and the science shows us. So if you can start to bring your body and your mind into a place of, this is going to work. This is going to get me what I want it to get me. Shifting your focus, that is the way that you bring about what you want in this life. I found the best way to get out of this was to stop focusing on this idea of I have to manifest the baby. It's all about the baby. I've got to get the positive pregnancy test. I've got to get pregnant. I've got to have the baby. You don't want any of those things. You don't want the pregnancy test to be positive. You don't even just want the baby, do you? No, you want the life that you are going to build with this baby, the family that you're going to create. That is what you want. You don't just want this little baby that you're going to, put on a shelf. You're going to spend every moment of every day with this little person. You're going to experience the most incredible moments of your life with them. That is what you're manifesting. So when you can zoom out a little bit and focus on building the life of your dreams, everything that you want, where your baby is just one part of this, that I think is where things really start to shift. So that mindset of how can I dream bigger? And this is hard. I know this is so hard because we revert into, well, it didn't work last time, so why would it work this time? But it does. It worked for me. But, I had many, many months and years of things not working, but then it did work. It is going to get to the point where something changes and it will work for you. And you'll know that this is effective and you're on the right path with this mindset shift if you feel uncomfortable. If this is feeling, I don't know if I can lean into this energy today. You want to revert back into that safe place of, I'm just going to play it small. I'm going to make sure I don't get too overexcited. If you can get out of that and get a little bit uncomfortable, you know that you're on the right path, and ride it out. I promise you, this is the path that is meant for you. So shift number 5, instead of saying, I can't afford to make a mistake, we're going to shift that into mistakes are the way that I grow. I know so many women on this journey from years of watching my students that perfectionism is something that raises its ugly head again and again when we are up against something like infertility. And I think I probably was always a bit of a perfectionist myself in life. But I swear, even if you're not that kind of person, when you get into this space, especially when you go down the path of fertility treatments and IVF, it's going to make you tap into this crazy type A energy of I have to do everything right. I have to do it perfectly. Perfection paralyzes progress, because what is perfection when it doesn't work? It just becomes blame. It becomes the what ifs. Like, what could I have done better? What didn't I do enough of? Was it that one glass of wine that I had last month? Did that ruin my fertility, all my chances? Was it that piece of chocolate cake that I had last Saturday night because it just looked so good and it had been so long since I had something like that? No, that chocolate cake is good for your soul. In fact, it's medicine. Go this weekend, have a piece of chocolate cake if it's something that you enjoy. And one thing like this, it's not going to harm your fertility. Perfectionism is such a tricky beast because it doesn't exist. You can't be perfect. We all know that. There's nothing that is perfect that you can do in this life. And the worst part of trying to be perfect when you're struggling with infertility is that you can do all of this. You can do it all right, but it still doesn't work. The last round of IVF that I did, I consciously took 3 months before we started. And I had been doing a lot of preconception care in the lead up to that because we were trying naturally at home. But, there were some other medications that I could take in order to prep specifically for an IVF cycle. So I took those 3 months. My husband and I, we did all the things, like all the things. This is before COVID happened. It was the 19 supplements. It was 12 different supplements for my husband. It was acupuncture 3 times a week, fertility hypnosis, meditations every day. I found someone who did fertility massage, fertility reflexology. I drank the stinky herbs that the Chinese medicine person had given me. I went to bed at like 9:30 every night. I am not an early to bed person. That is not me. I did everything perfectly. There was no sugar. There was no gluten. There was no dairy. My diet was organic. It was the perfect lead up to an IVF cycle, and it didn't work. And instead of thinking, well, I tried my best, like things happen, I went into a spiral. I think that was my lowest point. When you can do all of that and the money and the expense and the emotional toll that all of that takes on you, and you think this is all for a reason, this is all for this end game. And then it becomes, well, how long is a piece of string? How long do I have to do all of that for in order to get what I want? So instead of avoiding this need to make any mistakes at all, I want you to look at yourself and ask, what has happened and what can I learn from this? How can I change my approach with the new information that I now have? And I was able to look at, well, I did everything perfectly and I didn't get what I wanted. So what's now? And coupled with this forced stop that COVID brought me, that lockdown brought me, I stopped doing all those things. And that's when I got pregnant. And I think that is a huge lesson that maybe if you don't learn it from yourself today, please learn it from me, because I wish I had learned it so much sooner. It would have made my life a lot nicer. I would have been a lot less miserable to live with, I imagine, as well. So I promise you, trying to be perfect is going to set you up to fail every single time. But learning from what you've been through and saying, well, how can I adjust this? How can I approach this differently? That is what's going to help you the most. The last one, shift number 6 that I want to talk about is, instead of I should be able to do this on my own, we shift that into asking, how can I ask for support as a way to regulate my nervous system? You were never meant to do hard stuff on your own, and you were never meant to go through something as hectic as infertility on your own. Obviously, when, humans were evolving back many thousands of years ago, infertility wasn't really something that we thought about, especially IVF. But whenever humans were going through difficult times, they rallied together. They were able to support each other. Humans are designed to thrive within community and connection, as I spoke about before. In fact, being with others is one of the very best ways to regulate your nervous system. There is this beautiful concept called co-regulation that basically means you being with someone who is regulated means that your nervous system can regulate. We have mirror neurons, so our nervous system kind of picks up on, I guess, for lack of a better term, someone's energy, someone's vibe. Like, your nervous system is so highly evolved and advanced that it can do that. And that helps to regulate you in return. There is zero shame in asking for help on this journey. And I get it. Like, it's such a lonely place to be. And it's so shameful. It's something we don't talk about. When I started going through my first round of IVF, I didn't even tell my mum. And that's just ridiculous to me now, because, my mum and I are so close. And what was it that I thought that was so shameful about this journey that I couldn't share something like that with her? And I don't want anyone to be in that place as well. And it just goes to show how much this journey affects us, and the shame of how deep it goes through us comes out in our lives. We think that, our bodies are designed to get pregnant. It's so easy for so many other people. Why is it so hard for me? What is wrong with me that I can't do this one thing? We suffer all of this in silence. So this is your reminder today to ask for help. And it doesn't have to be, the judgmental person at work or your best friend who, bless them, they try their best, but they just don't get it. Find someone who does understand what you're going through, someone that you can trust. The wonderful thing about the online community we have access to these days is that there's a whole world at your fingertips of women and people who are there and ready to support you. So I encourage you. In fact, I am giving you an assignment to reach out to someone, because I guarantee you it will make you feel a little bit better on this journey. Oh, this has been a big episode. I just want to recap. Let's go through those 6 mindset shifts again. And as I mentioned at the start of the episode, maybe just jot them all down and then come back to them when you can and journal out a few things that come up for you. So number 1, instead of rest is unproductive, rest is a strategy. Number 2 was, instead of if I slow down, I'm going to be falling behind, into when I slow down, I make better decisions. Number 3 was, instead of saying no will impact my relationships, into I am not responsible for other people's reactions. Number 4, instead of saying I don't want to get my hopes up on this journey, instead I want you to say, how can I dream a bit bigger? Number 5, instead of saying I can't afford to make any mistakes, into mistakes are the way that I grow. And lastly, instead of saying I should be able to do this on my own, ask yourself, is asking for support a way that I can then start to regulate my nervous system? I hope that you found this episode helpful. And if you have, I would love for you to share it with someone who may be struggling on their own journey that as well. I find that being able to reach out to others with just I thought you might like this might have resonated with you. I find that's just a really gentle way of helping people on their own journeys too. Please leave me a review. If you have 30 seconds, that is the absolute best way for me to reach more people and to help more people with this podcast as well. Now, next week on the show, we are going to be talking about all things fertility, nutrition, supplementation, and egg quality with 2 experts who will explain everything that you need to know about nutrition without getting overwhelmed on this journey. So until then, I am sending you all my wishes as you continue your own journey to fertility. A few days of the year, I open the doors to the In Your Element Fertility Yoga program. This is the most comprehensive mind-body fertility program you will find anywhere. Studies show us that the stress of infertility can be compared to receiving a diagnosis of a terminal illness. And while doctors are there to support your body from a medical perspective, it's not their job to help alleviate and manage your stress levels. So how can you get through the anxiety of trying to conceive in a way that feels calmer and easier? I designed the Element program to help support your fertility in 3 important ways. To help reduce your cortisol levels, helping you regulate your nervous system, to increase circulation and blood flow while releasing physical tension from your body, and to reconnect you back to yourself, to find that sense of peace and knowing that you are capable and in control. On top of this, we run weekly live classes, ongoing workshops with fertility experts such as doctors, nutritionists, and therapists. You'll receive personalized programs and be surrounded by a community of women who get it. This is a month-to-month program, so you can jump in today and decide if it's right for you. Doors are open for just a few days or until places are full, and I can't wait to see you on the inside.